Tesla needs India more than India needs Tesla. The Tata Indica also was not designed here. The Tata Nano was also not designed here. Mahindras and Tatas are not designed here.
2004, 2005. All right, and perhaps one of Maruti's most iconic launches.
Well, people need to upgrade from a Tesla. In a period of, I think, 2 years, Maruti had lost close to 20% market share. Maruti is the quintessential Sarkari company which will not survive anymore because global competition is here. Hydrogen by itself, whether it's green or grey or blue, is a real good challenger to electricity. And right now, the Swift in its 4th generation can actually suffer from not delivering its promise. Electric mobility by itself, interestingly, will end up using more plastic. India, as we've always been, is chaotic. They were traditional American companies, right? Big oil, big evil oil, that kind of stuff. Japanese, the Indians, and the Germans are very hierarchical. India is really a world-class automobile ecosystem. But India still needs an automotive design ecosystem to be built. But the new vehicle was not only going to be a new vehicle, it is also going to define the new Maruti DNA.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat with GB. And today I have an amazing person with us, someone who is an outstanding marketer, auto enthusiast, and one conversation that you'll really enjoy will be this one. Welcome so much, Avik. It's just great to have you here at the Academy with us. So welcome.
Thanks, Gaurav. Thanks a lot. It's my privilege.
And you have been keeping yourself extremely busy, I believe. You have an automotive school design center that is starting up at XLRI Jhajjar. You have a book, you have all the articles, big things happening at Experial as well. So how have things been with you?
Well, things, as I keep telling people when they ask me as to how am I doing, I say that any better it would be illegal.
I love that.
Okay, so that's the way it's been. Never been a dull moment.
Yeah. And XLRI, I mean, of course, that's, where you're an alumni, of. And what is with that school? Because I have met some amazing people who are, really big on innovation and out-of-the-box thinkers. What is the reason that XLRI actually creates, minds and mindsets such as that?
I guess it all lies in the kind of ecosystem that, let's say, the Jesuit fathers and also the faculty have created over the years. Interestingly, it happens to be India's oldest business school. It also happens to be Asia's oldest business school.
I did not know that.
It was set up in 1949.
Wow.
At the request of J.R.D. Tata,
Mm-hmm.
who wanted his, trade union leaders and the HR team, then the IR and the HR team, the labor relations team,
right,
to be trained, and to be trained in aspects of. Now, just imagine, this is just 2 years after independence. So he's already talking about things like empathy. He's talking about things like emotional quotient.
Wow.
Things that they talked about way back in the 1940s and the early 50s.
Right.
So I guess that also really helped set up or let's say create the wiring for for the institution. And then very importantly, the kind of people who really set it up.
Yep.
Both some of the really, really well-known Jesuit fathers of then Bihar and the Chota Nagpur belt, and some great teachers.
Yep.
So for example, though I majored in industrial relations and labor laws, right? But we had an amazing professor of marketing,
Right.
Professor Sharad Sareen,
Okay.
who started the concept of the marketing fair for the first time in the country. So using an idea like a marketing fair to do market research,
Right.
on problems both of existing companies as well as then startups of the 1970s and the 80s.
Wow.
Through consumers in Jamshedpur and getting results. And then companies actually creating their strategies based on the outcomes of the marketing fair. So, we had teachers like these. So, we had a teacher, Kamla Mathur. Now, Kamla Mathur, whenever the government had any problem on labor laws or labor law legislations or regulations, Kamla Mathur was the go-to person. So these were the kind of people who actually set up the place. Okay, we had a father Syriac who had done his thesis in clinical psychology under Anna Freud, Sigmund Freud's daughter.
Wow.
So we had such kind of people, right? I mean, we had a professor of communications. I still remember Father Jesurajan. In his room, I mean, he was really feared by all of us.
Right.
Okay. He was the first person in my life who I actually saw wearing Levi's trousers, okay, and carrying an umbrella 365 days of the year. And in his room, I mean, if he called you, you were actually shivering. But when you enter his room and you see his bookshelf is full of the entire collection of Charlie Brown comics.
Really?
Okay.
Interesting.
So that was the place. And we grew up in a place like that. We literally grew up in a place like that for 2 years.
Amazing.
And I guess that's what really makes most of the people from XLRI.
Yeah.
I can confidently say that at least in the Indian business schools, we happen to be a bunch who are very high on EQ.
Right.
Right? And we necessarily need not have done human resource management for that.
Right.
We are very high on aspects like teamwork. We are very high on aspects like thinking outside of the box, as they say, or in trying to look at alternate solutions.
Love that.
To everyday problems.
Yeah.
So that's the way typically the XLR is.
Yeah, totally relate, because I have a few other friends and associates from there as well, and you're right. They're thinking teamwork. They're thinking out of the box. They're thinking solutions that are different and different approach to things. So totally relate with that as well. And of course, now your give back to the institute is that you're doing something based on your passion and strength,
Yes.
which is automotive design and the marketing piece. So let's talk about the automotive design section that's coming up in Jhajjar, something that you're working on pretty closely.
Yeah. So as a kid, I was always fascinated with automobiles. When you're the only child of let's say a family or where one is a bureaucrat and therefore doesn't have enough time to spend with the family,
Right.
and you have a doting mother, and the rest of the time you basically spend only with yourself.
Right.
So you look at you create your own supports.
Sure.
So for me, my supports were my little dinky cars. When I was a kid, and the fascination continued, but I didn't take up an academic career in engineering.
Right.
Because that possibly was not really my calling. But I had somewhere decided that if I get a chance to work in an automobile company, it will be a great thing.
Right.
And that's what happened when I left XLRI and I joined Maruti. Maruti
Correct.
was my first job.
Correct.
And since then, for close to 23 years, I continued to be in the industry.
Yeah.
Okay, whether I work on lubricants or engine oils, or whether I work on tires, it was always to do with the automobile industry.
True that.
And a large part of what I am today outside of my mother is largely because of A, XLRI, and B, the industry. In the industry, what I felt was, India is really a world-class automobile ecosystem today.
Correct.
Okay, we have world-class manufacturers, we have world-class supply chain, we have world-class component makers,
Right.
we have world-class software engineers, we have all that. The only one area where I always thought that we are not yet world-class is when it comes to design.
Agreed.
Okay, and that is because of a mix of reasons. Initially, we always got vehicles which were handed over to us by the companies, by the organizations, and it's largely been happening that way.
Yeah.
You really have very few, let's say, true blue Indian companies. Okay, now you have them. You have a TVS, you have a Bajaj, you have Hero, you have Mahindra,
Right.
you have Tata, you have Leyland, you have those, right? Now they are true blue Indian, and they've also gone global, which is great. But India still needs an automotive design ecosystem to be built. It's not that automotive design is not taught in the country. Okay? You have an NID which was set up in 1961.
Sure.
Okay, and it teaches automotive design or transportation design. You have IIT Delhi, you have IIT Madras.
Correct.
You also have a lot of very good private institutions teaching transportation design.
Yeah.
But it is mostly till the graduate level. Also, it's one of the 17 or the one of the 21 courses that they teach.
Right. Right.
So there is really no absolute focus on this subject. And for India to be, let's say, a global powerhouse in automobiles,
Yeah.
you cannot just make in India. You've also got to design in India.
So true.
Yeah, and only when you do that will you create what I call the create in India. Okay, the creating in India is so important, right? So it's got to be something which is not just assembled or not just manufactured.
Right.
We've also got to proudly say we've designed it here. Okay, now, for example, the Maruti 800 was not designed here.
Agreed.
The Tata Indica also, contrary to what many people think, was not designed here. The Tata Nano was also not designed here. Okay, most of the present Mahindras and Tatas are not designed here. Okay, they're designed in studios in Turin or Birmingham or wherever. That's where they are done. But we can't really be a global powerhouse if we do not have that capability.
Yeah.
Okay, and Indians are great designers. Okay, we've got great designers in many other aspects.
Very true.
Therefore, that's where I saw the white space. Okay, and I thought my best way of giving back to the industry that largely made me what I am is to set up a dedicated design school. And it's more on the lines of, the European finishing schools that you have in fashion and cuisine, right? So you have a large bunch of people to choose from. You select a few from there, and you create them into absolute masters in their craft.
Yeah.
Okay, that is the idea. And I really didn't think that XLRI would agree to this plan, because they've traditionally been a management school.
Right.
But still, I took the chance of going ahead and doing the pitch. And the director there, Father George Sebastian, listened to me, gave me a patient listening, and he said, "Okay, give me some time. Let's think over it." And he came back saying, "Okay, we are on."
Awesome.
Yeah, which was really awesome. So to me, it works out so well. So I'm helping build an institution for my alma mater.
Right.
And I'm building an institution for the industry which I belong to.
Super.
And hopefully it will be an institution for the country I live in.
Lovely.
Okay, and I am from.
Yeah, I mean, such powerful statements, giving back, to the institution, that, you owed so much to, of course, and bringing in the industry that you've been an integral part of. And of course, in the end, bringing it down to the India story itself. So powerful. And, thank you for doing, what you do there.
Well,
and I love the fact and how you spoke about, the dinky cars growing up. And for many people who might be, watching this or listening to this today and are younger, you may be thinking, okay, what's the big deal? But back in the day, when we were growing up, these were hard to come by, right?
Oh,
like
yes.
They were, you had to actually have, family members or friends who were coming in from abroad. I remember, like, my brother and I, our Hot Wheels, used to be like the most valuable thing. And we used to have a box, I remember it was like a red box, like an engine where all of these were stocked and, stored. Yeah, it was, brings back, some memories.
So for me,
day.
the incentive basically used to be that if I do well in my exams, okay, so I either get 2 dinky cars or I get an encyclopedia.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's how my childhood basically happened, alternating between dinky cars and encyclopedias. Right. And so dinky cars basically dinky anyway is actually a specific company, but let's say model cars.
Yeah.
Okay, so they used to be imported then. Right. I remember as a kid when I was in Allahabad, which was in 1976-77. There used to be this shop called BL Rama and Sons. I hope it still exists. Okay, and they used to have this one little corner which used to have all these model cars displayed.
Right. Right.
Okay, and it was a huge fascination for me.
Yeah.
Just to go there and have a look at them, and obviously to play with them, try to preserve them as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still hold on to some of those? Even
Oh
now?
yes, I still have two of them from 1977.
Wow.
Okay, I still have two of them from then.
Love it. So amazing, and started out, with this fascination, for cars, went down to, XLRI, and then, Maruti happens. And of course, Maruti is an organization that you became an integral part of. And we're going to go back now to 2004, 2005. All right. And perhaps one of Maruti's most iconic launches was something that was under your watch. And talk us through how it was at that time, because Maruti was coming from the mold of, maybe the Wagon-R and, the Alto. And then we were going to have this really snazzy new car coming out, which is a car that just celebrated almost 20 years now. So talk us through what it was like back in the day.
Yeah, that was again very interesting times. And I know I had just rejoined Maruti. So I started my career, I joined Maruti in 91, left it in 94.
Right.
And then I came back to Maruti in 2001. I left it in 2005, and since then Suzuki has had this policy of not allowing people to come back. Okay, God knows for what. But yeah, so when I rejoined Maruti in 2001, I remember the MD then, Mr. Jagdish Khattar, who also happened to be a great mentor of mine.
Right.
His only incentive to me for coming back was, he said that you left saying that there are no challenges in Maruti. He said, this is the time when Maruti is full of challenges and everybody is challenging us. And we need to challenge ourselves internally.
Right.
So come back. This is the right time.
Okay.
Okay. And the work on this vehicle, the Swift, which now they've just launched the 4th generation on the 9th of May.
Right.
The work actually started in 2002. The vehicle came out in 2005.
Right. Right.
And that was possibly the first time when I was involved in a project even before, let's say, proverbially the first line was drawn. Okay. I still remember 22nd of May 2002 is when I went to Hamamatsu, which is the headquarters of Suzuki, and made a presentation on what I call the Indian DNA. Okay. And this new customer that was defined as the millennial.
Okay.
Right. So this was a young, ambitious, proud Indian.
Right.
Right. Who wanted to establish himself or herself very clearly in society and to the world, saying that, we are arriving. So that was also, the 2000s, the new millennium breaking, Maruti really getting hit badly by competition, because by that time Daewoo and Hyundai were on full swing.
I remember.
And in a period of, I think, 2 years, Maruti had lost close to 20% market share.
Wow.
Right? And people were actually writing off Maruti at that point of time.
And the Santro and the Matiz were the guys doing the
Santro
damage?
and the Matiz. Yeah. And then you also had the bigger Daewoo, which was the Cielo.
Yeah, I remember that.
The Cielo. Okay. So you suddenly had these fanciful new things coming in the marketplace, and people said, Maruti is the quintessential Sarkari company which will not survive anymore, because global competition is here.
Right.
Right. And so those were really interesting times. And what was important was the Swift, which was not called the Swift till then, in 2002, but the new vehicle was not only going to be a new vehicle, it was also going to define the new Maruti DNA.
Love it.
Okay. So it was going to define a new Maruti which would break free from its typical stereotype of being a fuddy-duddy government organization.
Yeah.
Also, what had happened is Suzuki had increased its market share, its equity share in Maruti. And in 2003, we had the IPO.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Remember that. I think it was the turning point for the stock markets in general, because I think,
Absolutely.
and if I look back at, when did the Nifty and the Sensex start turning around, I think they always talk about it as the Maruti IPO.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the 2003 IPO was again a huge milestone.
Right.
Not only for the stock market, but it was, for us, it was very, very important for us internally. The morale. Okay, to relook at ourselves as new people.
Right.
Okay, it's almost like you are going to welcome new members in your family.
Yeah.
Who are not necessarily exactly the way the older members are. So this is like, when you have this large family, this joint family,
Yeah.
and this new member comes in, either through marriage
Right.
or by birth,
Right.
right? And that new member is not exactly like you, like the way you or your grandparents have been. So they're also coming and challenging conventions.
Correct. Correct.
So the Swift was supposed to do that for the organization. Okay, so therefore its role was extremely crucial for Maruti. Just the way the Maruti 800's role was,
Right.
almost exactly 20 years back,
Yeah.
in 1983.
Yeah.
Okay? And therefore the Swift project was so important for all of us, because everything that was done about the vehicle, right, the way the supply chain was created, the way the engineering team looked at, completely relooked at the way vehicles would be defined, in the way they would develop the vendor base, okay, to meet certain cost targets, but also to ensure that it meets the highest quality standards.
Yeah.
Things were being done in every function in Maruti, in that period of 2002 to 2005.
Interesting.
We just happened to be part of the team.
Yeah.
Okay, and we had incredible fun. Okay, in marketing and sales, we were just three people. There was Joydeep Roy, there was Murli Nair, and then there was myself. And we had a wonderful time.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember those days. And you were all in, because I'm thinking to the time when, we'd met and you were selecting gifts for the launch in terms of, even press con gifts, and, what were the, keychains going to look like, and what the clock's going to look like. And you said everything has to be something that has never been done before. So it was, and you were all in. So every aspect, including what the press is going to receive, what the collaterals are looking like, what are the launch gifts, you were all in on every aspect.
We had to be, because we also got so much of inspiration from our own colleagues in the other functions.
Yeah.
When you saw that everybody's got really energized because of this product, okay, which is going to come in, and also because all of us realized that this product can transform the organization, okay, can transform the way people look at Maruti as a brand.
Correct.
Okay, and therefore it has a much larger role to play. So we gave it our all, including even and I must say, the leadership gave us a free hand.
Love it.
Absolute free hand, right? I mean, even the people in Suzuki, I guess they realized that we're trying to do things which are quite new, and they gave a free hand to, let's say, their counterparts in production engineering or production planning or engineering or R&D.
Right.
They gave them a free hand, which was so wonderful.
Yeah.
The success of the IPO again played such an important role, because it was a massive steroid shot for all of us in the organization, that we can, redefine ourselves.
Yeah, no, I love it. And truly achieved all the objectives, because it was a breath of fresh air. I remember it was the most aspirational car. There was a crazy weight, and everyone, forget the 20s and 30s, even the 40s and the 50s, they all wanted to, own a Swift. And the red color was obviously, a big draw, and everyone on the roads, would really recognize it. So I think that did, brilliantly at the time. Probably launched at a price of about 3.75 lakhs, thereabouts. And of course now, many years later, we've had the relaunch, or not the relaunch, but the fourth, variant of it. And I remember reading an article somewhere where, I think the current price was maybe a little upwards of 10 lakhs. And you were like, are we outpricing, ourselves, or is this really, what we stand for? I know that kind of, maybe, well, I won't say annoyed, but perhaps, I think it just, brought something, up within you again. So something for our listeners and viewers on that?
Yeah, so all products, when they end up becoming brands, uh, they become brands because they espouse a certain DNA and they espouse a certain purpose,
Right.
right? And that's what keeps them going.
Yeah.
Obviously, you need to always keep relooking at your promise as the years go by. But you've got to be steadfast on the purpose.
Right.
And the purpose of the Swift was, to be an extension of the personality of the young, ambitious, proud Indian.
Right.
And it's been a success all this while. The Swift, I think, by itself ends up doing close to 17,000 units a month,
Yeah.
right? Which most of the others in competition would give an arm and a leg for.
So true.
To me, reaching a price point of 10 lakhs
Yeah.
somewhere beats that purpose, right? And that's what it annoyed me. It actually annoyed me. It peeved me. It's like, you make profits on your promise, right? You cannot make sustainable profits when you forget your promise or where you don't actually deliver your promise. And right now, the Swift in its 4th generation, possibly, hopefully it will not, but it can actually suffer from not delivering its promise.
Oh, I hope that doesn't happen though. It'd be a shame.
Even I internally hope that doesn't happen, but then sometimes, what happens is for the good of the brand, you need to get hit. I always believe that, okay? And brands just cannot continue to keep rising. Life is cyclical, right? You will have your downs. So I hope this is the down and it comes up very soon.
Yeah, I think economics and market forces, will decide in due course. They always have, and I think it's going to be no different here. So keeping with, the automotive conversation, I know another thing you're very passionate about is sustainability. And we're talking about anything from, using the plastic bags to, wrap tires, I think, which is an article you wrote, just yesterday, to, even the components being used in cars. So, I mean, of course, we all know the importance, but thoughts on sustainability and what do we need to do more, as a country, as an industry, even as individuals, what do we need to do more in sustainability?
Sustainability, again, is, while the kind of products you use, the kind of inputs you use, how you deliver your products to your customers, also you need to look at the materials that you use and they need to be sustainable. Sustainability is more a frame, a frame of mind. Okay, so one big problem that we anyway suffer from is the use of single-use plastics. Okay, and that's a massive issue, and I think the Indian automobile industry has the responsibility of taking steps, conscious steps about it, of single-use plastic, and that's why I took examples of, the plastic wrappers on the tires.
Correct.
And also the vinyl stickers on the tires, and to me the preposterous use of plastic in wrapping all those seats.
Yeah.
Right, the amount of flex that organizations use when they're doing conferences on creating signage.
Yeah.
Now these, and this has to basically, you would want to protest against these things when you really understand the core concept of sustainability. Sustainability is not just using lesser water and recycling your water and using solar power and using wind power. Those are the easiest things to do.
Yeah.
The tougher things to do are, when you are actually using unsustainable methods of marketing, selling, servicing, and you actually take steps to counter those, to reduce those.
Right.
Especially in the automotive industry, that is an extremely important part. The way we sell, market, and service are automotive products, okay,
Yeah.
whether they be components
Yeah.
or tires or batteries or lube cans or cars or the vehicles,
Right.
okay, the teams have to be extremely conscious, right? And you need to actually work with technologists in finding alternatives.
Right.
That's important.
Correct.
So, for example, a large percentage of the vehicle washing in most of the service centers is now waterless.
Really? Okay.
So the service team has worked on it.
Mm.
But unfortunately, we marketing and sales guys, we're so full of ourselves, right? Because we're always in the limelight, right? Whenever there's a launch, we get photographed, not the service guys, not the engineering guys.
So true.
Therefore, we think that we are the kings of the industry.
Yeah.
We pay least amount of heed to all this,
Yeah.
which is so sad.
Yeah. No, I feel you there. And, even like I said, in the space of gifting, I see such a big push towards sustainability, and not like what it used to be back in the day when someone said, oh, give us a water part clock or a water part, calculator, which is still, made of plastic and all of that. But globally, and, of course, being a part of some of these global, bodies and organizations, we see so much that's coming in sustainable materials, hemp, recycled PET, cork, jute. So there's just so much happening, there as well. But funnily, sometimes even in rPET, there's so much greenwashing. Where there was this, and someone said they were using ocean waste, but it turned out that they were just taking bottles, in fact, even manufacturing those bottles, shredding them up, and so greenwashing, right?
Exactly.
And they're like, this is everything that, we didn't, stand for. It's being done. So
absolutely.
It's funny sometimes.
Absolutely. So so again, the thing is, whether you're window dressing your numbers or you're greenwashing the narrative.
Right.
That's the other aspect, and where hopefully the ESG norms which have come in, okay, and they are in force now. Hopefully, they would actually make us be slightly more true to ourselves.
Keeping with that narrative, of course, today everyone's looking at least moving away from fossil fuels. EVs are, of course, are doing great. There's a lot of market penetration there. The hybrid movement, I think, in India has really taken off. And then, of course, now you have Toyota talking about green hydrogen or hydrogen powered, or in some form or the other. Where do you see all of this going now? And electric as a medium, sustainable, not sustainable, in terms of even feasible? Thoughts on that?
See, any green energy source theoretically is always more sustainable, right? But obviously, you need to apply that theory to the actual reality at the ground level. Electric mobility by itself, interestingly, will end up using more plastics.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're using batteries.
Right.
Those batteries are housed in thermoplastic. Okay. Then, because the batteries are much more heavy than the conventional internal combustion engine,
right,
you need to lightweight the vehicle.
Yeah.
Whether it's a two-wheeler or a three-wheeler or a four-wheeler or a bus.
Right.
And your typical lightweighting is you either use composites or you use plastics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
But the thing is, they will not be single-use plastics, but we will be using a lot of plastics. And plastics are again a petrochemical output. So, so while we are reducing the use of fossil fuels for as an energy source, we will be using those fossil fuels as an input into an output.
Got it.
We will do that.
Got it.
The other important part of electric mobility is how you generate the electricity. Okay, now in India, even today, close to 65-66% is thermal generated, right? So we will still take a long amount of time to really get into green modes of electricity generation.
Yep.
At the same time, there are so many parallel things that play in a country like ours.
Correct.
We need to electrify 600,000 villages. Okay, now the government says that yes, we have electrified 600,000 villages. Again, on paper, that's correct. But what that electrification means is, I have a light pole and I have the electric wire reaching there.
Correct.
Okay, am I providing electricity? So the moment I start providing electricity to my 600,000 villages, And the moment I generate enough electricity so that we don't have the power outages that we are experiencing in Delhi NCR right now,
Correct.
in the very first month of summer,
Yeah.
will we have enough electricity to supply to all the electric vehicles in the country?
It's a good question. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's another important question.
Yeah.
Fine. So then we say, no, we will be able to provide because we're enhancing capacities. In which areas are you enhancing capacities? Okay. If you again go by the government records themselves, we are enhancing capacities in coal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, if we are enhancing capacities in nuclear or tidal or solar by 1,
Right.
we are enhancing capacity in coal by that 1 is to 2.5.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, because we've realized that, again, India is not the Netherlands. India is not Sweden. It's not France. Okay, I have my own intrinsic problems to solve.
Correct.
And those problems are far more important
So true.
than electric mobility,
Yeah.
quite frankly, according to me.
Yeah.
So while it's a great idea, is it relevant for India right now? It is, but I would restrict it to the two-wheelers becoming electrified,
Right.
because anyway they consume much lesser power,
Yeah.
and also they can be charged on a simple 15-16 volt
Correct.
plug.
Correct.
Okay, they can be. I can definitely aim for the three-wheelers to be electrified. I can aim for micro commercial vehicles to be electrified.
Correct.
And I can aim for the entire bus transport to be electrified.
Yeah.
But I should not even bother with right now electrifying four-wheelers, which is cars and SUVs and trucks and so on.
Yeah.
Okay, that to me is a fanciful exercise.
Yeah.
And right now, if important minds in the think tanks of the government are spending time on that, they're basically wasting their time.
Interesting point.
Right? On the other hand, you spoke about green hydrogen. Now, hydrogen by itself, whether it's green or grey or blue, is a real good challenger to electricity.
Yeah.
Okay? It's just that we need to sort out how to transport it, how to store it.
Right.
There are organizations across the world and even in India. For example, Indian Oil is doing a huge amount of work in their R&D on hydrogen. Okay, they have a couple of, I think at least a couple of full hydrogen stations operational, and they've been testing them out for the last 4 to 5 years now.
Really.
Okay, so if the oil companies can transform themselves into becoming energy companies,
Right.
and look at aspects like hydrogen, okay, and at the same time even look at biofuels
Right.
and flex fuels,
Yeah.
right? Ethanol, methanol, and so on. India cannot, as a nation, have one solution. We just cannot.
Agreed. Agreed.
Okay, and that is, according to me, the way forward for making mobility green in our country.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've had experience with such a vast range of automotive companies. I mean, talking Maruti, there was Volkswagen, there was Peugeot, of course, there was Apollo Tires, there's also been BP Castrol. So very diverse, experience across all of these. And I'm going to come to the similarities and the differences between working for companies across so many geographies. But prior to that, just another point on Tesla. And of course, everyone's like, when is Tesla coming to India? So a couple of questions around that. One, if Tesla does come in and Elon Musk says, Avik, I want you as my marketing head, will you take up that role? Okay, that's one. Secondly, is Tesla genuinely under threat from the Chinese EV guys who just seem to be playing at a different level right now? So yeah.
Firstly, I wouldn't take up that role. Yeah, because then I can't criticize it.
Okay.
Right? So it's no fun.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, Tesla needs India more than India needs Tesla.
Yeah.
Okay, let's be very clear about that, because Tesla is, as you correctly said, is facing the heat from various places. Right now, it's the Chinese, is more with the likes of the BYDs and the Xiaomis of the world, who are doing incredible amount of work.
Yeah.
And Tesla will also face the heat even from say the traditional European manufacturers.
Right.
Once they get their game right.
Right.
And then from absolute outsiders, but challengers like VinFast. from Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Tesla will face the heat, which is very natural. You know, when you're a pioneer, so you've pioneered a category, then there are people who follow you into that category, then your market share does drop. It is bound to drop. I mean, Maruti's market share in the when I joined in 91, Maruti's market share was close to 85%.
Correct.
Today's Maruti is extremely happy with the market share of 45%. And that's the mature way to go about things, you know, because as long as the pie keeps increasing and my numbers keep increasing, I don't even mind a 30% market share of the entire electric vehicle population in the world, as long as I am selling 35 million of them. Yeah. So let's not look at market shares. What you raised that important point about the Chinese, you know, biting him on his heels, which is true. Okay, so when you suddenly have a company like Xiaomi, okay, coming up with a vehicle like the SU7, and then the founder of Xiaomi, you know, having the sheer gall to say that, well, people need to upgrade from a Tesla, right? And they mean it. And they mean it. And the Chinese have been at this for the last 30 years, mind you. What we are seeing today is the hard work, is the support of the government, is the billions and billions of dollars put into research and development of 30 odd years. So you just can't wish it away.
Agreed.
In the case of the US, the government only recently has created a policy. Okay, before that it was all left to, you know, so it's the classic clash between, let's say, the organized state versus the free market state. So the free market state throws up pioneers, right? The organized state creates pioneers, right? And they create 50 of them in different aspects, and they also tell them that you will be pioneering on battery chemistry, you will be pioneering on you know, the integration, you'll be pioneering on this, that, whatever. That's what you'll be doing. But what we are seeing between China and actually the rest of the world is this classic clash. So it's not just China, it's the organized state versus a free market state. So Europe is free market, US is free market. Okay, Japan is hybrid.
Correct.
Korea is hybrid. Okay. China is completely organized.
So true. Would you classify India heading towards the hybrid state as well?
India, as we've always been, is chaotic.
Okay.
You know, because to me, the fundamental problem lies in the lack of trust between the government and the technocrat. The government and the industry do not have mutual respect and trust for each other. And that becomes a problem. You know, when your minister threatens you by saying, I'm going to drag you by your collar into becoming electric, right? And then after 5 years, espouse the cause of ethanol and flex fuels, you realize that the minister actually does not respect the industry. On the other hand, when you have the industry that tries to always keep stonewalling safety standards, you realize the industry does not actually have respect for the government and the people. Now, I really don't know what is this an outcome of. I guess someone would really have to look into it. You know, some social anthropologists might have to do, this can be an interesting research topic for them. But that is the harsh reality. You know, because I worked with the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers for 5 years, consulted them. And this was the fundamental problem. So you could do any amount of communication that you wanted with the outside world, and you could try to build any kind of narrative. But till the time the government, the planners, the industry, and the activists don't work together, and they actually have mutual respect for each other, nothing can happen in any economy.
Very good point. Very true. Agree 100% on that. You know, and you were talking about how, you know, the pie is increasing, and of course I think, you know, India's automotive four-wheeler penetration is, I don't know, 22 per thousand. China's probably at about 10x of that. USA is probably like 40x of that. Will we keep up? Will we be able to cope up in the sense, as far as infra goes on roads and and parking infra and all of that stuff? Are we suited to, if we were to double from here and maybe double from there as well, can we keep up in terms of what is required infrastructure wise?
I'm reminded, your question, Gaurav, reminds me of this wonderful saying of an ex-mayor of Bogota.
Okay.
Who said, the sign of progress is not when you have 100 people driving fancy cars, 100 rich people driving fancy cars, but the sign of progress is when you have those 100 people taking a bus.
Okay.
Right? So I would question you as to why would India need to sell more four-wheelers? India needs a world-class public transport system. I mean, I came to your office. It's a distance of some 40 odd kilometers.
Right.
Now, I should have ideally taken the metro and come here.
Yeah.
Okay, I should have. I've been irresponsible enough in actually taking my car. But that is the way life should be. We should use a mix of the metro, the buses, the three-wheelers, water. So, and I see this wonderful ecosystem actually working in Kolkata very well. So, you would have experienced it. So, if you get off at Howrah station, you take the ferry to cross the Hooghly and come to this part of Calcutta, right? And then you take that the minibus, which is there at Babughat, okay, to go close to your destination, get off and then take possibly a three-wheeler to reach your doorstep. That's so wonderful. You don't need private transport for that, right? And that's why most of the people in Calcutta don't own cars. They don't need to own cars. People in Chennai don't own cars. No. They don't need to, right? It's only where you have an absolute shambles of a public transport system do you need personal transport.
That's a good point.
So my first thing would be, we need to build public transport, okay? And then if the penetration today is 22 or 25 or whatever, quite frankly, if we want to look at a higher penetration, we cannot do it by making vehicles more expensive. Today, a good, acceptable quality entry-level vehicle costs you 5 lakhs of rupees, which is preposterous in a country like India. Okay, where the most expensive commuter motorcycle is less than 1 lakh of rupees.
True.
So if you're expecting the two-wheeler guy to upgrade into a four-wheeler and a new four-wheeler, not a used one, you actually want him or her to buy a vehicle of 5 lakhs? I mean, who are you kidding? And that's my problem with manufacturers like Maruti, who purely because of the greed of the profit motive are actually, they're really not investing in a vehicle like the Alto. The Alto, it looks so ugly. Who would want to buy it? People who buy it, they buy it because there's no other option.
Agreed.
If I were a Hyundai, I would bring in a vehicle at that price point, and mind you, it will meet all the safety and the emission norms. I do not agree with industry leaders who say safety and emission norms make vehicles more expensive. Right? The same norm, the same standards, you just amortize it over 3 million vehicles. Your component prices come down.
Agreed.
Okay, so today, for example, if a pair of airbags cost you 8,000 rupees, just add 20 more million vehicles, it'll come down to 4,500, 5,000 rupees.
So true. Yeah. No, I totally see your point. And you're right. Look at, some of, the most developed cities in the world, which I've been to, so London, New York. People don't want to own cars over there. It's actually a pain, and I think they kind of Singapore, they make it a painful thing for you, so you
Paris,
don't actually have to do
London,
that.
New York, even Frankfurt. Germany is like the home of the individual automobile. But even there, okay, look at the increasing investments all those cities are making in public transport.
So true.
Okay, because but there they are seeing it from the other perspective.
Right.
which is I can afford private transport, but I need to be responsible enough in using public transport. And here we have our country with a per capita income of $2,300, where we are looking at individual transport and neglecting public transport.
Yeah, agreed. Totally defeats the purpose. And also when you spoke about affordable cars, and I think they also call the K class. Right. I mean, why make them look as ugly as they actually do, so that people by choice would be ridiculed. I mean, college kid who's perhaps I mean, I remember as when I started out, my first car was a second-hand Zen. And Zen at that time was still fashionable and trendy, right?
It was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the new Alto was so cool.
Yeah. But
right? I mean, look at what they've done to the Alto now. It's as you, and you're rightly saying, it's as if you're deliberately wanting to make it ugly and so loathsome that I am forced to buy the Wagoner or the Celerio.
Yeah. What was up with the name like the Franks? I'm like, why would someone call a car like the Franks? That was just funny. I mean, sorry,
but it's a great car.
I know.
It's a great car, and I find the name very quirky. I just hope and I wish that the brand manager of the Franks, does some real quirky stuff around the vehicle.
Yeah.
It's a great vehicle, and mind you, it's also is the first vehicle 100% designed in India by the Maruti Design Studio, and it got shortlisted in the World Car of the Year.
Oh wow!
Okay, so it's a great piece of design. Hats off to those guys.
Right.
And it's got an extremely quirky name.
Yeah.
So it has all the makings of a big brand in the next 20 years.
Maybe like what the Swift ought to be today, or the
maybe what the Zen was or the Swift is.
Yeah. Agreed. So we touched upon the fact, and I know we're close to about 50 minutes, so we'll maybe wrap this up in about 10 or 12. But we spoke about the fact that you have experience across so many industries and also so many different companies owned by so many different nationalities: the Americans, the Japanese, the French, the German, and even the Indian. So your experience around that in terms of similarities, differences, takeaways, ahas that you'd never expected when you came in. So something that you'd like to share on that account?
Yeah, because and I've been really fortunate in working in all these different kinds of cultural environments, and each experience has taught me a lot. Yeah. I've become much richer by each experience. So obviously started off by working with the Japanese, and then when I moved to a company like Caltex or ExxonMobil, they were traditional American companies. Right, big oil, big evil oil, that kind of stuff, right? And then, of course, I worked with Apollo Tires, which is Indian, and in between, I worked with an Anglo-Spanish brand consulting firm also, and then, of course, with Peugeot, which is French, and Volkswagen, which is quintessentially German. And I have wonderful memories of working in each place and learning so much from each of them. While they have their cultural differences, of course, but they also have a lot of similarities, So, for example, the Japanese, the Indians, and the Germans are very hierarchical. Yeah. Okay, we love being called sir, and we love to actually have to close our doors, when we have a room to ourselves. And love to have an executive assistant or a secretary.
Sure.
In fact, when we were in Volkswagen, we used to jokingly call the headquarters as Gurdwara.
Okay.
Okay, because it was so huge, and secondly, there were so many doors, right? So to meet the chairman of Volkswagen, Martin Winterkorn, we used to jokingly say you have to actually pass 5 doors, to finally reach his room.
Wow.
Okay, which is so different from the French, and I didn't expect that. So actually, of all my experiences, the one where I had most fun and I loved it and I love it and I have the fondest of memories is working in Peugeot. Right, and people typically don't. People have stereotypes about the French. Okay, very open, very, very friendly people. They have this amazing sense of humor where they actually make fun of themselves, right? But at the same time, they're very afraid about the rest of the world, and they admit it.
Yeah.
Okay, so an extremely senior person in Peugeot told me that, Avik, we have this corporate philosophy which says, when in doubt, get out. Okay. And that's what the French have done. Okay, they've entered a market. If something wrong has happened, a little bit of doubt, get out. And that's what Peugeot did when it tied up with Premier.
Back in the day.
In the 1990s.
Right.
Okay, Peugeot could have stayed on, but they just decided to completely withdraw.
Was that when they had the 118 NE?
The 118 NE came up later. This is when they brought in the 309, the Peugeot 309.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah.
So, that's the way they are. But at the same time, they are so incredibly open, and I guess they're so rich in their culture that I, as a Bengali, loved it all the more because, if I took pride in the fact that we could have our Adda sessions going on for 3 hours, 4 hours, they beat us hollow every time. Okay, they could just keep talking for hours and hours and hours. Right, and they would even tire the Bengali out.
Wow.
Okay, the Japanese, what I really love about them is their manic obsession with quality and systems. It's really amazing, really amazing, right? And they teach you so much there, and also the fact that they also instill in you right from the beginning that every work is worthy of respect. So for us to be taught that each of us at our work desks will have a little duster. So when we come to office, keep the bag. The first task is we will, by ourselves, clean our own workspace.
Love that.
And that's so important. Also, the second learning from there, that when you get into a meeting room, you can debate to whatever length you want.
Right.
But every meeting has got to end in a decision. And when you leave the room, you have to abide by and espouse that decision.
Love that.
Okay? If you have a difference of opinion, again call another meeting.
Okay.
And get in there. But do not disrupt the system outside. Again, maybe because it's hierarchical, so there's a team that is waiting for your instruction. Now, if you have a doubt in your mind, like typically like us Indians do, no, we come out of a meeting and say, "Arey yaar, boss na wahi galat bol raha hai, ye galat hai, this is wrong, that is wrong, management ko to kuch pata hi nahi hai," all that kind of stuff. They don't do that, because the moment you do that and the moment you say any of that in front of your teams, your team loses direction and focus.
True.
Okay, so that's an incredible thing to learn from there, from the Japanese. And very respectful, but at the same time, they are very, very circumspect about non-Japanese people. So if you do end up earning their trust, I think it's a huge achievement in your life. So when I look at someone like Carlos Ghosn and what he did, I mean, he's a superstar. I mean, today he may be a bad word, but he's an absolute superstar. I still remember Gaurav walking down the streets of Tokyo in front of Nissan headquarters, and I was actually walking with my Japanese boss, with Saito-san. Okay, and we wanted to see the Nissan headquarters. Okay, and he just held me and he says, "See, observe." So I saw 3 young people, okay, just stopping at the corner of the road, looking up somewhere, bowing, and then going away. So I asked him, "Saito-san, what is this?" He said, "They're bowing at Ghosn-san's room. That corner, top is his room. So people typically do that here."
Wow.
And how amazing is that?
Indeed.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, just imagine the amount of respect that man has in that culture. I mean, to have a manga comic about him, okay, in a culture where, they typically don't trust any gaijin. It's incredible. So, The Germans, quite frankly, I didn't have a very good experience with Volkswagen. And I don't mind also saying that, I left them before they would have sacked me. Okay, things came to such a pass. But as some individuals, I met some really brilliant individuals there. Okay, really creative people.
Yeah.
Very, very open, rich in culture, in EQ. The Germans typically tend to be very, very obsessive about the IQ part. Okay, and that's where I think they, a lot of the EQ gets robbed.
Yeah.
But then the few friends that I have from my days in Volkswagen and even outside, really creative people, very high on EQ, and typical global citizens. So similarities, yes, there are some similarities when it actually comes to the thing with hierarchy, but all of them, for them, people are very important. Okay, whether it's an Indian organization or a Japanese, or a French or a German or an American,
Right.
they all definitely work on the basic premise that nothing happens if people are not there.
Wonderful. Yeah, and speaking of like people and patience, and sometimes when you join an organization and things aren't really moving at the pace that they should, and we have a lot of youth who are also our listeners and watchers as well. So your advice to youth today, because they get easily distracted, they always have that grass is greener on the other side syndrome. So when it comes to patience, persistence, and your advice to youth today.
Okay, so patience to me is not always a value; it's also a consequence. So when you are in a market where there are not enough jobs, you will be patient.
So true.
Right? You wouldn't want to lose your current job.
Yeah.
Right? And therefore you will also accept a lot of things which otherwise to you as an individual you wouldn't agree with.
Right.
Today's youth is not bound by that. Okay, today not only are jobs available, but you have your own. You can create your own futures, right? Which even earlier you could.
Right.
It is just that let's say the pipelines of money, the pipelines of investment were very, very few then.
Right. Right.
Otherwise, this concept of a startup, India's always had startups.
So true.
Yeah, Tata was also a startup, at a certain point of time.
Agreed.
Okay, Kirloskar was also a startup.
Yeah.
So was Duckback a startup, and Britannia a startup.
Yeah.
They were all startups.
Yeah.
Everybody started at a certain point of time.
Very true.
Today, you actually have a very what I would say an enabling ecosystem.
Agreed.
Right. Therefore, you can actually take your own calls, which to me is good.
Yeah.
So while we always ask the employee to be patient and to be loyal to an organization and wait for the right opportunity, the equal amount of onus lies also on the organization.
100%.
Okay, to retain an employee.
Yeah.
Okay, so while you typically do exit interviews for employees, somebody needs to do exit interviews for organizations as to why is the employee leaving the organization. And organizations who actually do it that way,
Correct.
they are mature organizations, and which is why people have been known to work longer with the Tatas or with the Birlas or with
Agreed.
the Eicher Group,
Yeah.
or typically with the organizations in the South.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they typically end up working much longer. So it's got to work both ways. And for today's generation, all I would say is, you guys are much more sorted than we ever were.
Agreed.
Right? We never understood the meaning of work-life balance.
Yeah.
We thought we need to work and then create a life. You guys have already understood that there is life and work is a part of it, right? And that is what the work-life balance actually should be.
So true, and I think that's going to touch a nerve with many, right? And yeah, I agree on this fact. And also, recently I came across one speaker who was talking about entrepreneur versus intrapreneur. And an entrepreneur, of course, and there's this big movement today which says, oh, quit your job and become an entrepreneur. But on the flip side, I like the argument where within an organization, you can be an entrepreneur, where you actually run a division, you run a profit center, you make yourself so valuable that without the risk of entrepreneurship, you've actually elevated the game, the respect, and everything else. Thoughts on entrepreneur versus intrapreneur?
To me, both have to work hand in hand. Okay. For example, I mean, would you ever think that a Gurcharan Das or an Ashok Ganguly or a Vindi Banga is any less than, say, the people who founded a Paytm or the people who founded an Ola or something? No, not at all.
Yeah.
If I have the capability of taking an organization from X to 100X over the 15 years of my leadership, I mean, you are the biggest entrepreneur.
So true.
Right? So I personally don't like the terms entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. I would prefer the term of, are you a growth engine or not? Okay. Now you can be a growth engine within an organization. You can be a growth engine by yourself. You can create an organization being a growth engine.
So true.
So you just need to be a growth engine, which is what you also say, right? You need to be a growth engine. It's as simple as that.
So true.
So, I mean, if I were to work, say, in an organization like yours, and create a new business vertical,
correct,
and grow that, I'm a growth engine.
100%.
Okay? And you, as a mature entrepreneur, right, would say that, okay, fine, so you need to be treated almost like an entrepreneur.
Correct.
Right? Because you're doing it yourself.
Correct.
Go ahead and run it yourself. And that's how very large organizations have become so successful, because they have spun off their own divisions into separate companies.
Very true. Very true.
Who've gone ahead and done incredible work. I mean, look at this great example of Mudra as an advertising agency. Okay, it was the advertising division of Reliance Industries, which was then spun off. Or take an example of even another advertising agency like Lintas. Okay, they were a part of Unilever.
Correct.
And then they were spun off.
Correct.
And see where they are today. So you need to be a growth engine. Okay, and the growth, also to me, there are various parameters of measuring growth. Right? For example, if I help others grow, I'm a growth engine. If I help the numbers grow, I'm a growth engine. Okay, if I help ideas grow, I'm a growth engine. I may be a growth engine in running possibly one of India's best innovation labs, in just creating innovations and helping create innovations, and just go out and do their own stuff. So I'm also a growth engine.
It's priceless. Indeed. Yeah, thank you. Like I said, it's been an amazing conversation. We haven't even let you have a sip of your tea. We shot in a single take. You barely had like a sip of water, but I think the insights were priceless, and we could just go on. I've known you 20 years, and someone I've really looked up to and respected, and it's such an honor having this conversation, having you in our studio.
Every moment of it, Gaurav.
And what's next for you? What are the next few years hold for Avik?
Well, to me, the school is my biggest, let's say, target now. I need to have it up and running definitely by the end of next year. And let's say the first batch joins in 2026. And if I can really make it happen the way I envision it and the way XLRI envisions it, I can be satisfied. Apart from that, just want to spend good time with friends. Okay. So many things to read, so many things to see.
And you have a book coming up as well.
I'm writing a book which is hugely delayed, which is so typical of me. but hopefully sometime, inshallah, that will also be released.
Yeah.
And I don't aim for too many things in life. Just a few, just do them well.
Of course.
You know, spend time with the friends, be close to them, be close to a few causes,
Yep.
right? And I guess that's a life quite fulfilling.
I agree. In the end, that's really what it all boils down to.
Yeah.
And I think you have it all, figured out. Always have, really. And you continue to inspire in your own quiet ways and doing your thing without making too many headlines. But I think you just go about there and inspiring. And I have a little something for you as well. And I know you're very inspired by Ferrari, and I know you also wrote a book on that. And I also saw the pen that you had. So this is something I picked up for you. So that's a Ferrari edition of the Mont Blanc
Thank you
notebook.
so much.
So I thought it'd be nice for you to have that to write some notes in and things like that.
This is simply incredible.
So, yeah.
This is incredible. Yeah, I was in fact I was asked by the Hindu to do a review of a book on Ferrari, book on Enzo Ferrari, written by a journalist called Luca Dal Monte.
Right.
So yeah, so that was also interesting, reading that book and getting to know so much about the man outside of just the racing.
Right. Right.
And I don't know if you've seen Michael Mann's Ferrari.
I haven't actually. It's on the watch list.
Yeah, you must see it because there again, it's again culturally it's so interesting. So when we make a movie, when we make a biopic on a person, we typically tend to start with the birth and all the events, and finally with the death or the retirement. So when you see a Sam Bahadur, Sam Bahadur has to be born, and then life, and then doing this, that, and moving on. But here you have Michael Mann's Ferrari, which is only about one incident in his life.
Really?
Okay, the 1959 Millimilia race, I think. That's it. But that itself encapsulates all aspects of that man. Okay, and that's where I guess even we, somewhere as creators, as creative people, need to realize that making a biopic is not. Now, I'm not saying this disparagingly.
Sure.
Is not making an Amar Chitra Katha out of it. Okay, where the little kid has to know the entire guy's life. A biopic is where you understand the essence of that person.
Correct.
Okay, but it's an incredible movie. You must see it.
Awesome.
It's so beautifully treated, and Enzo Ferrari doesn't look like Enzo Ferrari. Again, because Michael Mann's again making a very clear statement.
Right.
That the guy playing Ferrari did not look the way Ferrari looked like.
Yeah.
Okay, because Ferrari is here. Okay, it's all in the mind. Okay, it's not in his posture and his stature and stuff like that. Whereas here, when you do a Sam Bahadur, a Vicky Kaushal has to look like Sam Manekshaw. Of course. And if he doesn't look like Sam Manekshaw,
the audience doesn't relate in a way.
I mean, what an actor! I mean, this is not acting. That's the problem. I remember having seen a Naseeruddin Shah play many years back as a little kid. When he was playing Lenin. Okay, and Naseeruddin Shah comes on stage and he's clean shaven, doesn't even have his mustache, and he's playing Lenin. Okay, and suddenly in the middle he says, Vladimir Ilyich isme nahi, Vladimir Ilyich isme hai.
So true.
That is the way it is.
True that.
So culturally we're so different.
Agreed. Yeah, and again, once again, thank you. And on that note,
hey, thanks a lot.
I hope
Were you guys recording even this? No.
We did record that as well.
Okay.
So thank you all for of course being here, and thank you, Avik, so much for making
entirely
this trip.
my privilege.
And,
Entirely my privilege.
Looking forward to putting this out to the world and getting them to know a little bit more about the brilliance that you bring to the table. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Gaurav.
All right, so thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that podcast as much as we enjoyed making it. Do remember, like, share, and subscribe. Do not forget to do that. So click here to watch some amazing videos that we have on our channel, and click right here to go through the playlist and see all of the amazing guests that we've had on preceding podcasts as well.